Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next in our Jane Austen Summer Watchathon, where we watch Jane Austen adaptations and we talk about our feelings on them, a little bit of light entertainment for the summer. And thank you so much for rolling with the punches. We did reschedule this one because of events happening in the world. You know, we didn't want to steal focus and then talk about Alan Rickman at such a time. But now we can talk about Alan Rickman this evening. And this is an interactive chat. You can have comments and questions about Jane Austen, and hopefully Sense Sensibility in the comments, and we'll kind of respond to them. And I'm Alexa Dunn. If you're not familiar with me and my channel, I am the author of Brightly Burning, which is a Jane Eyre retelling set in space, and apropos, The Stars We Steal, which is a Persuasion/Jane Austen retelling set in space. And I'm going to let my lovely co-hosts, who are going to discuss Sense and Sensibility today, with me introduce themselves. And if I'm all over the place, it's because it's hot.
It is. So, it's summer. It's summer. So
hot.
I'll go first. Pants. Right. Yes, we will get there. We will definitely get there. So, yes, I'm Jennieke Cohen, for those of you who don't know already, and I'm the author of Dangerous Alliance, which is a Jane Austen-inspired historical YA, actually about two sisters, among other things, and how they navigate the world of Jane Austen, which they actually live in. So we're going to go around. Laura, you first, and tell us about your books, and then we'll move into Sense and Sensibility.
Okay, I write YA too. I'm the author of The Library of Lost Things, which is about a book savant who works in a library and quotes Jane Austen all the time and refers to the boy in here as a Darcy. Library of Lost Things came out last October, and next October, October 6th, A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow comes out about a Cuban-American baker who unwittingly spends a summer in England in Jane Austen land against her will, and may or may not meet somebody special who may or may not sell tea. So those are my books. So and an Untitled book 3 coming hopefully next year, which is I'm on deadline. And I'm so happy to be off working on my books to be here with all of you tonight. So thank you for having me.
And I am Rosiee Thor. I am the author of Tarnished Are the Stars, which is too shiny for this world. It is about 3 queer teens who team up to save their planet from a deadly epidemic. And it has nothing to do with Jane Austen. And that's fine.
That's okay.
I'm just here. Yeah, I'm just here because I have really spicy opinions and I really like Alan Rickman.
Perfect. So yeah, let's go around. Alexa, you first. Maybe talk about when you first saw. We're going to be talking about the 1995 movie directed by Ang Lee and starring Emma Thompson, Alan Rickman, Hugh Grant, and also we're going to briefly go into our thoughts on the 2008 miniseries that was on TV. And I think ITV, right, Alexa?
No, I think that one's BBC.
Oh, is that one BBC? Okay.
It was the only ones of that period that was actually a BBC one. And was it 2008 or was it 2011?
Oh, maybe I'm like
2008.
Totally crazy.
I lose track.
Okay.
I think 2011 is the Emma.
Yeah.
No, that was 2009. See?
Should we look?
What are years?
Do you need to answer this?
Well, if someone wants to look that up, you can. But anyway, Alexa, go first and talk about when you first saw the movie, the 1995 movie, and if you have any, where Sense Sensibility, the book, falls in your love of Austen, and where this movie in particular falls, I guess.
It's the best movie, I think, because I love Emma Thompson. I mean, I was a child when I saw it, because it might have been my first Kate Winslet movie, and it might be the reason I love Kate Winslet. I was a Kate Winslet diehard as a teenager, and this is one of so I saw this multiple times. When it came out in 95, I must have been 9 when I saw it, probably on HBO. So maybe I was 10, because it was always a year later. Yeah. And I don't know. It was my first real experience with Austen, I'm pretty sure. And I just really liked British period stuff as a child because I was strange. I mean, not in this company. I probably wasn't strange among these lovely humans. And my favorite Jane Austen book now is Persuasion, and then Pride and Prejudice because it's a perennial favorite. And Sense and Sensibility is up there. It's above Mansfield Park. It's middle for me, basically. But the thing is, I saw the movie, it's formative. And like, I think of it as definitive, even though I know it's not. Like it changed things, but it's so beautifully adapted that I prefer the movie.
Yeah.
I'm a bad person. It's fine.
No.
Emma Thompson.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I fall on it. I've seen the movie so many times. That is the story for me.
Mm-hmm.
Rosie, how about you?
I definitely also saw it as a child. It was definitely my first Kate Winslet movie. It was my second Alan Rickman movie, because I watched it after. No, it was my third Alan Rickman movie because I watched it after the first Harry Potter, and I watched it after that one Robin Hood movie where he's like the only good part.
Yeah.
That
was also my first Alan Rickman movie.
Yeah, I watched that Robin Hood, superimposed him over the sheriff of Rottingham in the Mel Brooks Robin Hood movie, Robin Hood Men in Tights, and forgot that he wasn't in it, and recently watched that movie because it's up on like Netflix or something, or no, it's on Hulu. And I rewatched it, and I like was shocked to discover that it wasn't Alan Rickman in that movie.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, this was probably, I don't know if it was my first Austen adaptation that I watched, but it was definitely one of the first. When I was really little, my mom knew that I liked books, and so getting me to watch movies, which was like, I don't know why they wanted me to watch movies. Like, I don't know why that was a thing that my mother wanted me to do as a child. Like, who needs that? But I guess she was like, if I can plop you down in front of the television, you won't ask me about words and you'll just ignore me. So she would go and like rent movies at the local Blockbuster, back in the day. And she would get adaptations because she knew I really liked books. So I went through all of the Jane adaptations, and she was like, well, Jane Austen is like similar. She went down that road, and I loved Sense Sensibility. It is my favorite movie adaptation of Austen's, and it is my second favorite of the Austen novels, Emma being my favorite.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. Laura?
I have spicy takes about Emma, too.
I have no idea when I saw it. I have no idea where it ranks in my Rickman movie. I don't know. It's a blur because that was a while ago, because I think I saw it when it first came out. But it struck me in how, again, Ang Lee's beautiful direction. And I think what has carried, and I rewatched it again to speak with all of you. Again, I hadn't seen it for a couple of years or more. It was just the performances are glorious. They bring the story alive. So I think it is my favorite Austen movie adaptation for sure. As far as books, it has to go to Pride and Prejudice. There is just something with P&P and me that just are like this. I mean, I wrote my Darcy is named Darcy for a reason. So I just have this kinship with that story and the beauty of it. But definitely for adaptation, it's my number one movie. Emma's also really high. Not a huge Mansfield Park fan. I know it's kind of except who I love, and I see her with us tonight is Jacqueline Firkins. Did such a beautiful and fun. Jacqueline. Yes, hi Jacqueline, we love you. You're part of our squad, and she did such a cool retelling of that and Heartstrings and Other Breakable Things. So she kind of redeemed it for me. But as far as that, I was on deadline and I took a break to watch this movie last week, and I felt like it just filled me during this time. It was just pure joy.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm bringing tonight, just the joy of it and how much we just enjoy this beautiful piece of art and literature mixed together.
Yeah, that's so great. I mean, I love this movie. Like
poor Mansfield. Look at her. We're sorry. Like I said, you redeemed it. I know.
It's funny. I feel the same as you guys. Like, this movie is great, and I don't know if you're a movie fan, like, I don't know how you can dislike this film, quite honestly. But I'm sure some people do. But luckily, none of them are here today, or at least not. Maybe they're here, but they're not on the screen with us at any rate. So, like, I saw this movie.
They don't have the power.
I guess not. Although you guys can comment, please do. This was my very first Austen movie that I went to see in the theater, other than Clueless, which I didn't know at the time was a Jane Austen adaptation. So, but anyway, this one I went to the theater and I was, I think in middle school, I don't know how old, but like, I just thought it was so great. And it was also so different than anything I'd ever seen on the big screen. And I thought it was like, so for some reason, like you said, Alexa, it was formative for some reason. I'm not quite sure why, but maybe it's like you say, the performances, everyone is just great across the board. I don't think there's one actor in this movie who doesn't do their job well. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what everyone thinks. But yeah, I can't point to anybody. But and then yeah, as far as the book goes, it's not my favorite of the canon, but I don't dislike it either. So I would say it's somewhere in the bottom half of the 6 finished novels for me.
There's only so many books.
Right, there's only 6 of them.
Yes,
Clueless is a Jane Austen adaptation.
As
it is
I mean,
I'd say like adaptation-wise, like remix-wise, I think it's the best one. Transformative work-wise, and then Sense and Sensibility is my favorite as far as like a faithful period movie adaptation goes. But yeah,
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Clueless is obviously a faithful period adaptation.
well, clearly those bobby socks and the plaid skirts were so Regency, right?
Man.
And everybody had those revolving closets, where you could just like,
right.
That's what, yeah. Was that in
when you're a kid and you see that happening? It's just like people have this. No, I don't know that anyone. I guess so. All right, so let's ask guys people who are in the audience. Like, let us know if you like the 1995 version or the 2008 version best.
If you've seen the 2008,
if you've seen them both.
It's of the BBC adaptations. It's less splashy. Fewer people have seen it. And I mean, my comparison. I know we haven't quite dove in yet. Divin words.
We're authors here.
Sense and Sensibility, perfect cup of tea. The movie 95, and then the poor BBC miniseries. It's like a little watered down. It's like they added some water to the tea. It feels the same beat for beat, even with the additions that were cut from 95. But it feels weaker across the board. But it's not bad. Nothing about it's bad. It's just less good.
I'm going to say this really authoritatively as someone who has not seen the 2008 version.
Okay.
Watch me come in with this take. I bet you it's because Ang Lee is a better director.
Well,
having seen a lot of the BBC stuff, I would say that just directorially, a lot of them lack that like particular lens. As like in this movie, you see a lot of shots that are very interesting. You see a lot of moments that are crafted in a way that I think we as writers can really appreciate because they're an absence rather than a presence. A lot of the moments of this movie that were standouts for me are moments of silence or moments of like a casual glance that means so much more than any dialogue could possibly mean. And I think what I find is that in this particular adaptation, those are done in such a way that's very subtle and effective, whereas sometimes in the BBC ones, they're either too subtle and we completely miss them, or they're too heavy-handed, and that removes the power. Yeah. But
yeah, I think that's
again,
fair.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
The storytelling. I mean, the scope is bigger in the BBC. They show things take longer. They show like the passage of time is a little different. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if we need that though. I felt like I enjoyed it. Okay, to be fair, it's only 1 hour longer. It's not like it's this long thing. It's not that much longer if you look. So you think where they added time, and I was trying to I watched the movie first and then I went the next day and watched you did too, Jennieke. I know we were both doing that. We're kind of watching and we're like, DMing. But I feel like everything we need is in the movie version. I didn't need it longer. And like some of those bits at the beginning where they're showing the scandalous relationship and all of that, it was interesting. But I'm like, they open with that. I'm like, that's interesting because they give it away. They give it away. But that's spoiler. But there's going to be a scoundrel and a scandal. It's like the two S's in B, S, and S, but in some kind of in an Austen story. But I think the reason it's so good is Emma Thompson and Alan
Yeah,
Rickman.
the script. I mean, the
yeah.
script, the actors, the direction, it's like everything.
It's stew that has everything added perfectly, and the restraint you're saying, like the restraint is so good and measured at first, especially with Emma, and then we were talking about this earlier, when she finally loses her sense and loses control is so monumental, and we as authors live for those moments. Like, we live for that moment of emotional integrity, or in this case, she's shown as the opposite of this for so many minutes, that when you see her just feel her feels, it's so moving, because we have all been her. And every author who is writing, especially a romantic story, wants to write what that feels like. So she brings it, as authors, we clap for it, because it's like, this is what we're trying to put on the page. And here we're seeing it on the screen, and we're seeing her adaptation of something somebody has beautifully already written, Jane. So we just have to applaud Emma in that moment, I think,
I think what that is that the acting in the 1995 version, and this is a nice little writing metaphor that we can use, it goes back to show, don't tell. They show the emotions, and I think often in the BBC adaptations, they telegraph them a little bit too hard. They tell as well as show, and that sometimes breaks the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that this 2008 version did that, because, by the way, I see your mug, and it's super cute.
It's
an Austen mug.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wouldn't say that this particular one does that, although I know what you're talking about, Rosie. For other ones, but
again, have not seen it because I didn't do my homework.
Like, if anything, this one I think shows things too much almost, and I think someone in one of the comments said that, like, it makes the implicit explicit.
Yeah, so true.
The especially at the beginning, as Jacqueline brought up, the very beginning where they have Willoughby and Colonel Brandon's ward basically having sex on screen. I mean, not like they don't show anything, but that's basically, it's spicy. But you don't even know that it's Willoughby, which is my problem, because I was like, who is this for? Is this for people who know who this is? For those of us who have read the book, seen the movie before? Or is it for new people? And if it's for new people, it's a choice. It's a weird choice, I think.
Yeah, it's a weird choice. To start that way too, you're like, okay, backstory.
I mean,
we're told as authors, you don't want to backstory your readers to death right in the beginning of. That's not what you do in your first chapter. You don't info dump with all this stuff that doesn't matter. And so that's what it's almost like.
Well, it also breaks the surprise that it ruins the
tension. Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like, and we can three of us do, we can talk about this, but like, I feel like it makes Willoughby into a super obvious villain. Even if you don't know that that's Willoughby at the Jacqueline. Like, even if you don't know that that's Willoughby at the beginning, and then they have scenes later on where he's saying kind of suggestive things to Marianne, and you think, what is he now trying to seduce Marianne? Are they going off the rails here?
He tried to make it real sexy. It was
it's like, I don't know why that's
Oh, yeah, Rosie, you should watch it. The's like a
Rosie
out in it.
Yeah.
So. I'm mad that I didn't do my homework.
Now I'm just gonna watch it.
I was gonna be like the cool slacker kid who gets sent to detention, but now I want to go.
They're showing that, and then it doesn't really come up again in any real context. Like, you'd almost think, like, if you're going to do that and you have an extra hour, introduce her as a real character. I know in 95 she's Beth, and in the book she's Eliza. So Eliza, I don't think they changed it for 2008. Like, bring her in. But then, of course, I would go, why though? It's all the weird addition.
I feel like having now seen Sanditon and seeing what Andrew Davies likes to do with hypersexualizing things, I feel like he did this on Sense Sensibility just for the heck of it.
Well, I mean, Darcy,
because he could get
in the lake.
Right, yeah, it's like the progression of after Darcy in the lake, after Darcy in a bathtub.
You don't mind it though.
No,
I don't mind it. I don't mind it in Pride and Prejudice at all.
No,
like, in this, it's like strange because there's no real payoff or any real reason for it.
And you care by that time.
Well, and
you know,
these are good comments about Willoughby, that we don't
Yeah,
care
we don't
about
get
him enough at the
there.
beginning.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, well,
95
Yes.
I
versus
also
bad
I
for him,
agree.
and I
Yeah.
agree.
I
Yes.
find that in the 1995 version, he becomes a much more realistic and interesting human being that you get to empathize with him at the same time as feeling like what a cad. But they really do push that empathy with Willoughby. I mean, even at the end, when Marianne is talking about, like, would he really have been happy? I wish him half the amount of pain that I'm going through. And Emma's like, excuse me, he's a jerk. And she's like, yeah, but like, he's going to be a sad jerk.
He's one of the least scoundrelous scoundrels.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes a mistake, but he really did care for Marianne. He wasn't like some of the other scoundrels who are just really out for whatever.
Gonna show how much I don't belong here. Who's the dude in Pride and Prejudice, the bad one?
Yeah, he's
Wickham.
Wickham.
Sorry,
there we go.
all the
Both
W's.
with W. Yeah.
well,
I
it's
find
awful.
the two of them, I think, are really interesting when compared with each other, because they have a very similar plot line that goes a very different direction and is treated differently by the heroines. And I think that's fascinating, because it's basically like you could go look at Jane Austen and be like, hey, why are you reusing your villains? But she does them in such a different way.
But she did the same thing between Sense and Sensibility and Emma. Edward is basically the good version of Ewan McGregor. What? Frank.
Frank Churchill.
He conducts himself properly and tries not to lead Eleanor on. Whereas Frank Churchill, I would say, is the opposite.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least that's my spicy take.
Yep. I think that's right. I think that's really interesting.
This is another topic, is like all the scoundrels. When you talk about all, scoundrel hour.
You could also do the same thing with the chatty ladies.
Oh, the chatty ladies.
Yeah, because Mrs. Jennings is beyond obnoxious, but I love her.
I love her.
And she has such a different treatment as Mrs. Bates, who's also a chatty lady, but they hate her. And
different status, though. I think class makes a huge difference in that one, for sure.
Money.
Which is a very different treatment, and it's interesting to see those differences.
Well, because really what Mrs. Jennings has to offer are things that tie to money. She takes them to London.
The cottage.
She gives them she takes them places. Like, she has access.
I mean, I was listening to multiple commentaries on this movie just because why not? And like all of them were saying, this movie is about money, and Austen in general is everything's about money and where you fall because of how much you have and how much you don't have, or what happens to you when your circumstances go completely awry and you now have nothing. Like Colonel Brandon's love, well, first and his ward, but both of them. So we could go into that too, but I guess we should. What? Go ahead.
I like this comment that Lucy Steele is the
worst. She is
also definitely a reflection of class and money in this story, and she's almost like an anti-Austen heroine. She's similar to Austen heroines, but we hate her.
But we don't hate her because she's obviously a lesbian and she's perfect.
So this is Rosie's theory.
Let's hear the hot take.
Okay,
on Lucy Steele.
I'm fascinated. I want to hear this.
I know, we're like,
Lucy Steele, first of all, shows up obsessed with Miss Dashwood, just full on obsessed. And she talks about her in this little voice like, oh, Miss Dashwood, the whole time. And she leans in really close and she puts her face right next to Emma Thompson's ear, and it's just like very sapphic. Very sapphic.
I actually, not to scuttle your hopes, dreams, and feelings and opinions. On this rewatch, I tried to really pay attention to her, because when I was younger, she was a character who didn't make sense to me. But as an adult, I watched her. The actress did a very good job. She's subtly underhanded. Like in the 2008,
she's great.
Yeah, and that's the thing. In the 2008, I had the question, because of the actress, no offense to her, how much she knew, how much she suspected, how much she's pushing. In the 95, she is calculated, and it's there. And I missed it when I was younger, but as an adult, I'm like, she knows what she's doing. I kind of hate her even more now.
Yeah,
I watched that closely too.
It makes me love her. She's so good.
Well, apparently in the movie, they amalgamated her and her sister.
Yeah.
which they have. They have both characters in the miniseries,
which I like.
We don't need another her. Like, we don't need to. She's enough.
Yeah,
big enough. Like, she comes in and like it's a firestorm enough on her own.
I agree with this completely. Right. She is the Mary Crawford of Sense Sensibility, but she's like a poor Mary Crawford, so she's even more calculated.
And you're like, girl, you're waiting around for like how many years, and
she
made
wanted that money. As soon as he's disowned, she's like, "Hey, Robert."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
I love her. But
I love how
I hate her on behalf of Eleanor.
Yeah,
it all works out.
Yeah,
I
just think about what could have been. You know,
she's good storytelling. That's just good. She does her.
It is.
Can we talk about how great the actress who played Fanny was? She was stellar. Just like top-notch comedy.
Yeah. She's a Shakespearean actress as well, and she's a big deal in the Shakespearean on the Shakespearean stage in England. So yes,
the entire cast is star-studded.
The entire cast was insane.
They're all like incredibly
decorated.
Yeah, she's like, I'm doing a thing. I know.
Yeah, whether she was Oxford or Cambridge, but she went to one of those, and she went with Andrew Davies. They were classmates, actually. I believe is the anyway. I don't
know. I hadn't even heard that. Interesting.
He was definitely classmates with what's her name, Fielding, who wrote Bridget Jones's Diary. So maybe I'm conflating them, but all of the showbiz Brits know each other. Anyone who went to Oxbridge, they all know each other. So,
well, I mean, she definitely wrote the part of Edward for Hugh Grant, and also the parts, the Palmers for Imelda Staunton and Hugh Laurie, which
they're my favorites of the movie.
Yeah,
they were
really good.
They, for me, completely stole the show. Hugh Laurie, just
Mr. F. You know,
just his version was just.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Well, and I love the fact that he's this. Very small. It's a very small role, and yet he's able to kind of turn it around and be sympathetic by the end, even though it's it's like a character. It's a character role, and yet he's able to kind of. Yeah, they both are, but they're able to kind of turn it around and show some sympathy by the end, even though they're quite strange at the beginning.
That moment where the doctor tells Imelda to go get her child. She's like,
that is not okay, Rosie. That is not so much in the 2008, right, Jennieke?
Okay.
I was waiting
for
that version in 2008. I was waiting for her freak out where she's like running with a baby, like to the nurse, like take this thing out of here, like the mother comedy. The nurse, like take this baby, but you do it, not me, because you're the nurse and I'm so elevated, But anyway, but that wasn't there. Like it's so good in '95. Like you see this panic of like he's gonna get a fever,
Yeah, I mean, well, like that stuff that's so written. Yeah, the comedy is mostly Emma Thompson's script, I think. Some of it's in Austen, of course, but. A lot of the like little funny things like that are in the script.
Madam, your son. The madam plus like the welfare of your son line. I can't put it.
Well, I want to know. I want to know how much
for the welfare of your son, and then it just sparks this this exodus with the baby and the carriages, and they're packing off because the baby is going to fall ill. It's like, and the mother's not.
Well, the baby is wearing like
the baby is the baby is in some kind of costuming. Yeah.
I wonder how much of it is in the script and how much of it is just the incredible comedic gold of the actors that they chose. Because Imelda is.
You have the script, right? You have.
I do have the script. I don't have it with me, but yes, I do have the script.
Cool.
I kind of want to buy it because I didn't even realize
screenplay.
You can buy the annotated screenplay.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, what I thought was interesting also was that a lot of those scenes at the beginning with Edward are completely fabricated by Emma Thompson. Very well fabricated. Yes, and like they made a whole point of talking about the fact that Edward's kind of a I don't know, a wimp in the book. Like he's not particularly likable. Yes, exactly. Like he's hard to like, I think.
Which, as a compliment to Dan Stevens, he was appropriately bland in the 2008.
Yeah.
And genuine.
Oh,
He's
well.
a charismatic person, and I was not really shipping it. So
No, like I can never remember what he's done after I've seen him in that movie. Like I always think, shouldn't I think he's like great or something? Because he's Dan Stevens, but I don't remember him.
Not, yeah, Rosie, you're like, what? You should watch it.
I could, apparently.
Yeah.
Or we should ask everyone, who's your favorite Edward of, if it's between Dan Stevens and Hugh Grant.
I'll call back an old comment that I wanted to feature when we got to it. Alec had a spicy opinion. We got to talk about this.
So
I
have
some. I mean, he didn't make it for me. He didn't. I mean, he was. Oh, yeah. I mean,
okay.
Emma was a show.
I think.
Yeah.
The single best moment of the entire movie belongs to Hugh Grant, and I don't know that it's necessarily his genius, but it is the moment when he comes to visit. That he comes to visit them, and Lucy Steele is there, and he sees her, and they ask him to sit down, and he sits down for like 1.5 seconds, and he's like, "Whoa, I gotta go!" Yeah. And that moment of silence where he like flips his little coattails, sits down, and like barely touches his butt to the chair, and then is like, "Well, I've still overstayed my welcome," and then leaves. It's just
right. No, that scene is great.
Gold.
It is like
that is good. Yeah. That you live for that scene of the three of them in that room. I mean,
it's
I think Austen gives us that in any other adaptation, like that level of like romantic tension and like awkward moment. Because usually you get the awkward moments, but they're talking about them, or they see it, or they witness it, and they like a Pride and Prejudice or Emma. But to have like all three players in a room like that is pretty 2011 YA.
I was going to say what's really interesting about the way that moment is handled is that I think any of us in a YA would know that moment is so charged and that it would have to explode. We'd have to do something with it. And what's interesting about what they do there is that they choose not to do something with it, which is almost more explosive. Oh, yeah. Because if they have this tension that's building about how are they all going to talk about this issue, and obviously she doesn't talk about her issues. That's the whole point.
On vampire fight that never happens on the field.
Yeah, it's like if they were to have it out in that room, it would resolve all the tension in one go.
It would you didn't do that. You just didn't do that.
But I think the way they handle that moment is brilliant because they allow you to sit in the tension for like half a second longer than you feel is comfortable, and they make you feel uncomfortable for them. And then they're like, okay, now we'll move on.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of those great silences in the movie, I think, where, like they're eating dinner and it's just silent. Yeah. And no score. It's just clearly, it's like, this is awkward. Eating together with people you don't like is awkward. Or, having a meeting, having a visit with people who you don't particularly, where there's all these different things going on, is awkward.
Mm-hmm. Look at another moment like that is at the ball that they're at when they see Willoughby. And Marianne walks over and
she's like
across the room.
It's one of the worst secondhand embarrassment moments I've ever seen and experienced in my life. It has stuck with me.
And you're going, stop. It's like right there for me, like right below season 1 of The Office in terms of awkward secondhand embarrassment moments.
Well, I just with the silence, another thing I think we just have to give the credit to Ang Lee. I noticed on my more recent watch through, he resists the urge to do close-ups, where I think lesser directors would, and he keeps you in like kind of a not a wide, but like an awkward medium at times, where you have to sit and watch them be awkward with each other. You don't get too close, and it's really effective. It's just great direction.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The lines between the two sisters, because one wears her heart on her sleeve, and one will never protects her heart and keeps it in here. So they don't let you in. It kind of like that perfectly balances the character arcs and their like characterizations, which I think is really cool.
No, that's great. I mean, and I also love that scene at, where Edward and Eleanor are like sitting in the drawing room in London, and they're talking about, she's telling him how Colonel Brandon has given him his parish so he can have a job and some money and a living, and like and it's no close-ups, it's just them sitting there.
That's doing the ones I noticed. Right,
that's the entire take, is like there's hardly any cuts in that take. They do almost the entire thing, and yet there's tension, even though there's no crazy tricks, no directorial tricks. It's just literally the two of them sitting there delivering those crazy, those awful lines to each other, and you feel the tension that they'll never be together. It's so sad.
I will say there is one moment of a close-up that I think was really well executed. And it's earlier in the movie. It's when Colonel Brandon hands Marianne the knife to cut the reeds.
Yeah.
And there's like that brief moment of like, will their hands touch? Will they won't? Or are they not going to touch? Is it going to be like the hand moment in Pride and Prejudice? And then it's just like they do a close-up to make you feel like it's that, and then it isn't. And it's like so close. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that one's really interesting.
And I just want to, because we talked about Hugh Grant, and I like this comment.
Yeah, I liked it.
He is Hugh Grant. I mean, think about it. This was early Hugh Grant, but I actually think it's one of his few roles where he almost transcends himself. It actually works. Well, and also I've heard he's kind of a louse in real life, and I feel like he's not in this movie, which thus I consider it.
The only movie I've ever seen where Hugh Grant isn't just playing Hugh Grant is Bridget Jones's Diary.
Oh,
it's the only one where he's just like a little bit more of an asshole than usual.
That was so good.
Every other movie he's in, he's just himself, and it's like, okay, well,
Notting Hill is him.
It's good. It's just like always the same. But I would say I would agree with you that he kind of almost transcends himself here. It's like it's Hugh Grant on Hugh Grant. Like it's just it's so extra.
Hugh Grant was written by his friend Emma Thompson.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think this was right after Four Weddings and a Funeral. So he was big. He was a big deal already. Yeah. He hadn't quite gotten
like before About a Boy and
where he is. Yes.
Yeah.
Before all the, and I think even before the big scandal in his,
I think it was before the scandal.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Anyway.
Can we talk about Hugh Grant's pants?
Yeah, yes. Thank you. Jacqueline brought this up with me. I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
Jacqueline's a costume designer from stage, so that's if you're wondering how we're summoning her, conjuring.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it, but we really have to acknowledge the weird pants pocket situation.
The busting.
Jacqueline, where are you?
Jacqueline, okay, also in case she left, she told me, she was like, he has the worst crotch line of any pants. And I was like, oh my God, you were so right.
Every like sad white man on Twitter who is annoyed about panty lines needs to watch this movie and experience Hugh Grant's crotchal region.
Do we need to take a screen cap and just have that be a meme to respond to that?
Anytime any man is like, but panty lines, we just post a close up of Hugh Grant's crotch.
Okay.
But yeah, compared to like what they do for Greg Wise, and even for I mean I wasn't actually looking at Alan Rickman, but like I don't think it's as bad.
No, it's not as bad. It's not nearly as bad. Although I will say Willoughby's are like a little bit droopy, but like he just fills them out a little bit better. And Alan Rickman is flawless, so it doesn't matter. But Hugh Grant, like.
And as to what it was probably an actor who threw a hissy fit with a costume designer. Is probably what it was.
Well, no,
you think Hugh threw a hissy fit, or the others did?
I think he had enough clout probably to say, "Oh, I don't like my pants like that," or it's just a bad costume designer. But the rest seem fine.
I genuinely just think that they were all the same pants, and that they just don't fit him that well. Like I really think that was the style, and that it was. You know what? I'm gonna say this. It was a metaphor. Okay. I feel like I should mention that I'm like almost a full drink deep. So
is that alcoholic? Okay.
Yeah.
Not appropriate for children.
He isn't mine, Rosie. What is in your Austen mug? What is mine?
I don't know.
Cute.
My roommate made it for me.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Can you something?
All right.
Some extra?
Yeah, I can. I don't have to. It's fine. If anyone asks, it's just something. Who knows?
Okay.
Plausible deniability.
Yeah.
That's an interesting comment. Yeah. I would not be surprised if he was more like, what's his name? Daniel Cleaver in Bridget Jones.
Well, but here's the thing. If you look at the pants and the characters who are wearing them, he's got a droopy personality. He's got droopy pants.
I think it's droopy. It's very like restrained.
Tight jacket.
Whereas Alan Rickman is like kind of uptight. So he's got some uptight pants that are like well fitted. I guess.
All right. Why not?
You regret letting me on here yet? Lucy Steele's a lesbian. Pants are a metaphor.
All right, well, let's hear your other hot takes because I'm curious. What was the other one you had?
Those were the big ones.
Those are the big ones. Okay.
But also that Hugh Laurie is the real star of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I wish he had more screen time.
Right? He's very good.
I definitely ended his arc feeling very upset for him in his marriage. I feel like he was really roped into a marriage he didn't want, and he's gonna have to suffer forever. I felt
misery on a screen.
Yeah. I wish that we had gotten.
But I mean, when you marry for money. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So his house was sweet. So who needed who?
I know the house.
I wish that his arc had been a little bit more. I mean, obviously, this is not something that we can. Please, Jane Austen, rewrite the book. We would like a revision by July.
He's so aggro, so angry, and you don't get the point that made him that way. You just get him kind of mid-anger, right?
Yeah.
Is that my recollection from last week? That you just see him being snarky and like, oh my gosh, and kind of putting up with his wife, and she's so overblown and overinflated, of course. But you don't really get the justification why. Like, why did you marry her? Other than, I mean, we know, but
I would say that what I felt was really interesting is that they were leading to something and they didn't go there. Yeah. Because in that last moment that he's on the screen, he's talking to Eleanor and she's telling him to go and that it's fine and that they'll stay with Marianne.
Yeah.
And there's almost, well, there was a moment where I thought they were leading to a joke. Just like I thought they were telegraphing a joke that was going to be him being like, please just let me stay. I cannot go with my wife and child. I will lose my mind. And they didn't go there. He was sincere in those last moments. And I thought that was a really interesting arc where they didn't do the expected.
But 2008, he's not quite as, I felt like, what do you think, Jennieke, that character is? He's not.
I don't think that they telegraphed it enough that why he's angry. And apparently in the script it was there. Apparently there was something that got cut out of the movie, or just that wasn't filmed, which was some line about how he had, married for money and was regretting it. And it's sort of like what happens to Willoughby.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
They kept that in. That would have been really a nice.
I agree.
Even the line, I don't know, just and we can kind of assume that, but
are we going to talk at all about how Willoughby is now married to Emma Thompson?
It's amazing. I love it.
I love it.
Their love story. I know. I mean, that's one of the great things about this movie.
Because she was with Kenneth Branagh back then.
Well, I believe he had already cheated on her by the time they made this movie.
Sure.
So supposedly
deserves some happiness.
Yeah. No. Apparently, he was at least according to the press. Because I did look this up again, Alexa. Because I was wondering, was he cheating with Helena Bonham Carter while they were making like Howard's End, which was
it was
Frankenstein.
This?
Yes, it turns out it was Frankenstein. And I guess she was making.
Intimately.
Yeah, it's interesting and it's like depressing at the same time. But
I was
also,
a strange 10-year-old. I loved Frankenstein and that weird horror movie that Kenneth Branagh did with Emma Thompson.
Dead Again? Oh my God, I love Dead Again.
As a 10-year-old, I remember being devastated that they broke up.
Right.
I
love their. Me too. I love their story because I loved Much Ado, and then I started watching all their movies.
Yes.
And then I was so sad. But then, then when she ended up with Greg Wise, you were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
She won.
Well, and that's great about that story is that he was told by
that's why I can't hate
somebody that he was going to meet his future
fortune teller.
A fortune teller. That's right. And he thought it must be Kate Winslet. So he took her on a date and she was so bored. And so he was like, well, can't be her.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
They're just the best. And think about it. They're still together. She's the breadwinner and he's like a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
It works, to be fair, a little bit.
Okay.
Which is
He's
credit
not
to
bad
him.
looking, except for his like weird sideburn situation. Didn't love that.
You mean in the movie?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
about
Sure
him
that he
now.
didn't keep those.
He doesn't
Oh.
keep those now.
I'm sure.
That jaw, though, it was so gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Moment of
apparently
silence for the jaw.
they saw him, so apparently she saw him in The Buccaneers, which is a miniseries that I love, and saw around the same time, because it came out around the same time, another BBC miniseries. And she thought he looked great. She thought he was great. She like had him come in to read, or like talk them into letting him read, I guess, because Ang Lee thought he looked awful because he had like a mustache and like other sideburns or something, and and Ang Lee was like, no, what? And then they brought him in and had him read, and he was great apparently. So I thought that was a cool story.
He's very good in it. So
He gives them, just like we talked about it earlier, humanity. Again,
Right.
let's just knock 2008. Dominic Cooper is not a bad actor, but the way that they wrote him and shot him, I'm never convinced he loves Marianne. In 95, 100%, you understand him as a character, you understand his arc, you understand the moments of deception. He's very clear, and he's ultimately sad. And that it's just far more nuanced than he is in the book, and certainly than he is in the 2008, which is more faithful to the book. So I like it. I mean, faithful on some levels. They added the sex, but whatever.
Yeah. And that scene at the end, again, on Lee, brilliance, where you have that beautiful landscape, and he's looking at what he has, and watching, and that all that green, and that's that breaks your heart, and it's a moment of sympathy for him. You're like, okay, you're happy she's with Brandon, but then you do feel for him, and I think that layering is really important, and you've got to give it to Austen for that. That's some good layering.
Can we talk about Alan Rickman now?
Yeah.
I think it's time, right?
Sure.
Have we finished with Greg Wise? Because I feel like he deserves more.
Well, generally, if we're moving into Alan, we get to talk about the ages of the actors who played the character.
Okay. Let's go for it.
The next chapter of discussion.
The age differences are a lot.
The age differences are a lot. And Emma, I support her, but she really pushes playing the role, and she knew it, which I respect.
She knew it.
Well,
and they wanted, apparently that's why everyone is slightly older looking than in the book, is partly because of her. So that they wanted someone older for Marianne too, apparently, but Kate Winslet was 19, I guess. And which they didn't know at the time, and then they found out after they were filming that she was 19. But regardless,
she looked older.
She looks a little older.
Very happy that they didn't have any weird gratuitous sex scenes in this one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, we were saying before the show started that Alan Rickman is quite a bit older than 35 looking. I don't know.
And I did kind of appreciate that in 2008, that like the actor, I'm blanking on his name, Morrissey something, that he felt more like age appropriate. Like I could actually pin down what he was supposed to be age-wise in the 2008. I did like that. Although, again, Charity Wakefield...
He doesn't look 35
he doesn't
to
look
me
30,
either.
He doesn't, but Charity Wakefield does not look 17. I believe that's the actress who played her. She looks like she's like 28. And I actually think she might have been.
Yeah.
So, it's not skeevy in the 2008.
When you're going back and forth between them, you're like, it's so different, the look of everybody. It's just like, it throws you off. I don't know. It threw me off.
Yeah.
To kind of like, okay, this is a different thing.
Yeah. Again, Dan Stevens, man.
Yeah.
Dan Stevens, Dominic Cooper, they're all like discount versions of the 1995 actors. That's how I feel about, I think it is Charity Wakefield. It's she was good, but she's not Kate Winslet. Sorry. It's not your fault.
Well, yeah. Well, and when you have that good a cast.
David Morrissey, that's it.
You can't really do better.
And that's the thing. David Morrissey did a really good job. But again, the entire 2008 is a weak cup of tea. Yeah. That's what it is. No one's bad. They're just not as good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like the movie or the miniseries also is like, it's slightly derivative of the movie because they pulled scenes that are like in the movie that probably aren't even in the book or not really, you know, like there's stuff that clearly were in Emma Thompson's script that they've like kind of retooled. And you're like, okay, all right. It's a take.
And like, especially we've covered this in our other live streams. I'm like, why did the BBC do a derivative take of Sense and Sensibility, something that's already perfect in 95, and not do some of the other Jane Austen novels that never get proper adaptations? Still, like, we got that horrible ITV Mansfield.
Mansfield still hasn't been done right.
Mansfield, well, we did we love the Mansfield
movie,
but we recognize that it's not the book. If you want a book like, no one's done a proper miniseries. And same thing with Persuasion.
Yeah, I was going to say the Persuasion movie's like, oh, it's not bad, but I know
what I'm going to say in the next live stream. Yeah, but
it feels incomplete to me.
Yeah. And Northanger, which I also think has gotten short shrift. Yeah, I can't believe there hasn't been a proper BBC adaptation in the last 40 years.
I need to switch out my laptop cord, and my son just bought it.
I'm gonna there hasn't been a like solidly Gothic adaptation of Northanger. Like,
have you seen the '80s one? It's so weird.
Yeah, I think that's
like creepy Gothic.
Yeah,
you've seen that one? Yeah,
I think so. But it didn't hit the right note at all.
No, it's weird. It's super weird, I think.
But I'm really surprised that there hasn't been more, since the Gothic aesthetic has really, I mean, in the last 5 years or so, has been really a big banger. Why there haven't been more Northanger adaptations?
Yeah,
just give us all the Austen all the time, everything. Give us more.
P&P has been done so many times, and like it can't top the perfection of Sense Sensibility. Emma's Sense and Sensibility is you can't do it. No.
So let's talk about let's see. Did we talk about, has everyone weighed in on their favorite Edward and their favorite Willoughby and Brandon? I don't know if we've asked these yet.
I think it's basically 95 across the board, except for Special Soul. I feel bad for 2008. It's not their fault.
If they come out first, it would have been different.
It would have been a great miniseries if it come out first. Yeah,
it's not bad.
In the shadow of 95.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but it doesn't stick with me the way that, say, the 2009 Emma does. Like, everyone knows that's my favorite Emma.
Yeah,
and like it sticks to my ribs in a way that the 2008 Sense and Sensibility, I'm like, it's a movie, I guess. It exists. Yeah.
Right. Oh, so real quick, because I did my little deep dive, I will talk about the movie, in the movie, certain scenes were cut out. So we have the, let's see, there was more of the scene where Brandon is talking about what happened to Eliza and Beth. It's like a whole scene of exposition, basically, but like there was more of it and they cut it down, and I feel like it works. I don't know what you guys think.
I didn't cinematically, of that. I didn't need more of that, I don't think. We got it.
We were talking about how the 2008 one shows the passage of time a little bit more, and I don't think that's necessary for the storytelling. And it's the same here. It's like that's going to fill space and create. It's going to slow down the pacing of the movie in a way that's not necessary, and it doesn't actually add enough to change the course of the narrative.
Did you notice that weird beach cottage? It just seems so interesting in 2008. That beachy venue they got there was just. I was so confused by that. I'm like, this doesn't look period like the materials and everything. It just didn't look quite right. I don't know.
And I appreciated that the cottage was run down. Like I guess they were really trying to emphasize it, but I don't know. I think the location scout just outdid themselves in 95. I just can't quarrel with it. It's perfect.
Jacqueline says the clothes are good in both. I agree. The clothes are beautiful.
Although Jacqueline, you missed our pants discussion. We discussed
except the pants.
Grant's pants. If you have any feelings,
Grant's pants. Grant's pants. This is hashtag Grant's pants.
Strong feelings about Grant's pants.
I did have hair thoughts on this watch. Winslet's curls were almost too perfect. I was like, how did you even achieve that? It's adorable, but I have questions.
I have eyebrow feelings.
Oh.
Because That sounded a lot more like woo woo than I meant it, but I swear it makes more sense. Kate Winslet's eyebrows don't match her hair, and neither do Emma Thompson's.
Yeah.
Okay.
They both have lighter hair than their eyebrows.
That was
I noticed Kate Winslet in like one scene. Yeah.
She had the problem in Titanic too.
Yeah.
So.
They just don't match.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jacqueline hated those baggy pants on Hugh Grant. Yeah.
She was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's
Grant's
worth to
pants.
talk about twice. It's worth to bring up.
Don't we all?
If we start hashtagging Grant's pants, we can't because there's definitely a town in Oregon called that.
Oh.
No, wait,
Grant's
it's Grant's
Pass.
Never mind.
I was like, wait.
I was like, this sounds like a place I've been.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, a couple other scenes that they cut, which were Brandon going to see his ward in a poor part of London.
All right.
Interesting.
That could have been interesting.
The duel.
I like that.
Apparently, they filmed the duel scene between him and Willoughby. That was cut.
That would have been
And
hot.
I would have liked that. Yeah. Like, bring that.
Yeah, might have been cool. And then the kiss.
Why they cut it though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it like fits per se, and that's what they said when they were. I think that's what. Yeah, I think that's what Ang Lee was saying in his commentary. It was like it didn't really fit. Like we didn't need it. And then kiss between Eleanor and Edward, which they filmed and was like I guess went in after that sort of proposal scene and before the marriage scene. So it really would have like broken that up.
I've seen it. You can see it on YouTube.
You can see it on YouTube.
You can see
Really?
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up. I don't know how I feel about them making out.
Yeah.
It's just a kiss. But I don't know. It doesn't.
That
you don't need
moment that you think she deserves, like she suffers, she holds this, and you want such a happy ending for her. It kind of just gives her more. It's something we would do in books, like give that character her moment of, if even though 95 is beautiful, it does. It's like he proposes, and then it's the wedding. Like there's no.
No, I remember feeling that way like when I first saw the movie, and like every time I watched it I was like, oh, I mean it might be nice if those two got a kiss, but then I was like, it's fine.
I will say I'm glad they didn't give us a Colonel Brandon and Marianne kiss.
Yeah, I didn't need that. I did not need that for Kate Winslet. Yeah.
We got
even though
reading, so that's
fine with them in the
better.
movie, but there's too much dad vibes. So.
I mean, like Alan Rickman is like top tier in
Yeah.
terms of if you're gonna kiss an older guy, that's the one you want to do. But
Sure.
no,
Yeah. Poor
Yeah.
especially knowing she's 19 and that.
19.
Ooh.
Kate. Yeah.
I will say that in
and
the
that
past,
when we're watching, but it's hard.
Although, think about it, she was even younger. Oh, God, I just thought about it. She was even younger than that, and she had to film a sex scene with Kenneth Branagh, so she'd already been through it. Oh, yeah, Hamlet.
No, Hamlet's after. Hamlet is after this.
They filmed it after this? Because they came
Yeah, I
out
think
like
so.
the same year.
Oh,
We'll check it
all right, I have
out.
to look it up because I swear.
I could have sworn she was younger in Hamlet.
God, I don't like that for her at all.
Either
Either
way, she was basically 19.
Either way, and either way, it was Kenneth Branagh who's like off around cheating on Emma Thompson, so we hate it.
Well, he's okay now because Emma says
know.
we can be okay with him.
I
So I
know.
trust
If
Emma.
she says that,
But like, we've seen what he did to Orient Express.
Right.
He's not okay.
But he also
No, like later Branagh movies I have problems with. I love the early ones.
He was as good as Lockhart, and then
Yeah, no, I think that's fine.
I will say
yeah.
he did you know what? He gave us Hiddles. The only reason we have Tom Hiddleston in
That's true.
Thor is
Oh.
because of him. So we have to give that to him.
okay.
I
okay.
didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, because they hired a Shakespearean director and he had been in Wallander with Tom Hollander.
It blows my mind.
Hiddleston.
What?
Different people.
We totally knew.
I don't care
It
about
does-
Tom Hollander.
It does truly blow my mind that Kenneth Branagh directed Thor.
Yes.
Isn't it
The
weird?
first one.
So
It was
weird.
back when Marvel was trying to have like auteurs do their auteur types do their movies, which they abandoned until they went to Taika Waititi.
Good. Yeah.
Taika.
They should
I'm
just
fine.
give everything to him.
Yes,
And
well,
just
they are
great.
kind of now. They're giving
Yeah.
him like Star Wars.
He's
so.
perfect. Yeah, I know. I'm very
But like
excited.
for a while there, they did actually try to have directors with very specific styles, and Thor is one
Yeah.
of the only ones. So
That's so weird to think about.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Dark Ages, less than 10 years
Yeah.
ago, yes.
But what I was going to say about Alan Rickman in this is that growing up, I remember watching and always just thinking Alan Rickman was like this grand romantic hero. And like, wow, what a great character. What a great voice. Love that vibe. And in this time rewatching it, the whole time I was just like, oh, he's old. Oh no, he's too old.
Yeah.
The whole time thinking about how young she is meant to be, even though she looks a little bit older, but how young she's meant to be. And that can you imagine?
Yeah,
You
it's
go
so
to live in this tiny cottage with your mother's, what is he?
He's
Cousin?
a cousin.
Yeah.
They're
Who's like,
always a cousin. It's
he's old, and his wife is dead, and his buddy from the war wants to court you, and you're like 16.
And his pushy mother-in-law is
Like, yeah.
really going for it. They're like trying to make that match happen.
Yeah.
And
The
like,
whole
he's
time.
marrying Anne.
He is the only eligible bachelor in the area.
In the area, exactly.
But
it's a lot.
yes, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because like I always felt it was slightly creepy, but maybe that's because Alan Rickman played so many bad guys, isn't it? Maybe another issue.
Yeah.
But not that he doesn't do a great job in this
Yeah.
movie.
But this
But
movie was
he-
almost
the
a turning
pining.
point.
The
for him.
pining is real.
Yeah.
Like his pining action is.
Yeah.
I think because when I first watched it, I was so young. I just thought they were both older and was like, they're adults. It's fine. I'm 5. You know, like
Now I watch it,
I
I'm
wasn't
like,
thinking about
girl, I'm so
Mhm.
sorry.
and
so
now it's
sorry.
like, oh, that's creepy.
Well, I mean, I should say not everyone has the same problems with age gaps, and like because I've heard people have told me this, and I was like, okay, that's true. That's a good point. Like, I think it's sort of like
real big.
it's a big one. No, I think it's the biggest one in Austen,
Yeah.
actually.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
you know,
might feel better if she weren't 17. But
Yeah.
it's just-
Yeah, an age gap feels.
fair.
I feel like when you're
Of
over
course, in
25,
Austen's
it's
time, if
like
you're
there's a different.
27, you're dead. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's true.
Well, Eleanor's 27.
She's a little
27,
older.
28.
No, I think in the actual
not
book, I think
right?
she's
Yeah.
like 2 years older than Marianne in the book, which
They
is
make her, they've
She's
aged
a
her.
spinster, darn it. She's given up.
She's
Emma
not
Thompson definitely. I think they aged everyone up
They aged
because
her
you
up.
you
Yeah.
mentioned that, right?
right. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, the wigs. I wanted to talk about that briefly because where they like filmed this, or they set it in a period where wigs were on men, were transitioning out, and the reason is because wigs were taxed. And yeah, isn't that weird? And so like they used that to their advantage so they could get the the leading men to not have to wear wigs. So it's just like, yeah, I thought that was
I
kinda
did
cool.
like that they had the Jennings guy, that they had him in a wig for part of it, and then
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Oh, Sir John. Yeah, Sir John
John,
Yes, Sir John.
I don't know.
Middleton.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yes.
Mrs. Jennings' son-in-law.
Son-in-law,
That's where I was
yes.
going with that.
Yeah. And then let's see. I was going to bring up the Atlas scene because I think it's so cute.
Oh.
I mean, all the
love
scenes with him.
Margaret.
Yeah, all the scenes with him and with Margaret are super
I
cute, which is
This was
something
a
they
book-
also took into the 2008
Yeah.
version.
That was well done. She's good in that too. In
I was
2008.
gonna say, if this
I mean,
book was
she's
written today,
now
she would be the main
Alec,
character.
So she's
Mhm.
okay. The little girl from the 2008 one is
Yeah.
what's her name? Lucy Boynton, I believe.
That's cute.
Oh,
She was in
Oh.
Bohemian Rhapsody, and is
Mhm.
now.
Okay.
I was like, she looks so familiar, and I looked her up. I was like, that's why. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
well,
interesting.
I think Margaret is. If this book was written today, she would be the main character.
Yeah.
She's spunky YA
She's-
heroine.
She
She's got
is
the personality.
Really, Mary Ann.
whimsical.
Really
Yeah.
Actually, one of
I
us could write that book. Is
That's-
Margaret's romance?
you
or-
can-
I'm so excited to write it and make it really gay, everyone.
That's fine. Do it. Why not?
I mean,
You should.
it is curious.
Well,
Like, what would
come out with
happen?
this in like 2 years, and we're gonna be
Yeah.
like, yep.
That'd be great. I would
Yeah.
love that.
She's got the vibe.
I just love that she's the typical kid and just running around
Yeah.
playing with like made up swords and with and the
I love
Just
that they're
having
not
fun.
trying to stop her.
Yes, they let her be scrappy, beautifully scrappy, and so fun, and just precocious. And she's hiding under tables in the library. I love that scene where she's like, "Hi," like spying, and her inquisitiveness and her bookishness. My character Darcy in my book would love her. Just that she wants knowledge, and that's a beautiful little like seasoning on a good story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, actually, none of that's in the book, so like,
Yeah,
that's down to Emma Thompson.
Yeah, she gets very neglected in the book.
Yeah,
they gave her a good.
They did, and then they let her like ask questions that I think the normal viewer would be asking today.
Yeah.
Which is
thinking. You mean? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I really enjoyed how much she likes Mrs. Jennings because I also really like Mrs. Jennings.
She likes the gossip.
Yeah, like
she likes the fact that they talk about stuff.
Yeah.
You can only imagine being in such a repressed English family where they don't talk.
Freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
she's a good foil for that exuberance and that precociousness, and like she says, she speaks her mind, and she's not worried about propriety. And
I just can't help but think she's screwed because she still has no money. How is she going to marry well?
Here's the thing: is Alexa,
Marianne might give her some dowry or something.
True.
She doesn't need to marry well. She's going to go off and be a pirate.
Oh yeah,
obviously.
That's right. That'd be good. All right. Any questions from anyone in the audience? Let's see. I was trying to see what we have here. Oh, Henry V. Yes, Henry V
really
is a
good
great
comment
movie.
about the 90s and eyebrows that I totally am down with.
Yeah, that's true.
The 90s were a time for
it was a time. Best advice my mother ever gave me was not to pluck my eyebrows.
Yes, that's right.
That's why I still have them. It's good. They don't grow back. People, if they're young people watching this, they won't grow back if you pluck them too much. You will regret it. And fashion changes.
Mm-hmm.
This is true. Yeah. Let's see.
Yep. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I agree.
I'd agree.
Yeah, she has like red shoes, which I've never noticed before.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that? It was so random.
I didn't
but
either.
I was like, red?
Just so
red little boots.
And
yeah. Let's see.
Like what she is. It's like you can see that Eleanor. You can imagine, was Eleanor ever like this? The Eleanor that is so. Like you go, how are they the same family? Eleanor is so prim and so reserved and so restrained. I mean, she's older, but then you get that foil of Margaret, who is so boundless, which is good. Emma.
That's true. Yep. The brilliance of Emma Thompson, I think, is the theme tonight. And yeah, anything else you guys wanted to mention? I was trying to look through my notes here. Music. Oh, I want to say music in the movie is so great.
So good.
Oh my goodness.
So good.
I'm a musician, so I'm just like,
I have the sheet music and everything. I got it like when the movie came out. I was so excited to learn how to play it.
I will say I'm disappointed that we didn't ever get to see the duet that she was going to play with Colonel
She didn't
Brandon.
know any duets, Rosie.
Well, no, but at the end he sends her piano and she uses the duet. And
that's when he's the best dude ever, when he sends her something he knows is so meaningful to her. I'm just like, it's a piano. I was just dying. I'm like on the floor. It's such my jam. Giving somebody something that makes it for them to do, and it's their passion, is true love. It really is. And that's why I'm like, okay, whatever your age, you're giving her a piano, you're forgiven.
Yeah, no, I mean, Colonel Brandon has some of the best qualities of a person, despite the age gap. You have to say that
he's very thoughtful, but also, and I think this is really important, I think we'll all agree, that his pants fit.
And the jacket, the red, the jackets were really nicely tailored on him.
Military outfit, yes.
Very, very well.
Yes. Well, I feel like we've covered all the great stuff about Sense Sensibility. I don't know about you guys, if there's anything else.
Yeah. Now I want to watch it again because it's like renewed instead of working, which is great.
But,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Instead of working.
And Rosiee will watch the 2008. I think that one was on Prime, I think.
I think it's on Prime.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. It's short. It's only barely
good.
longer than the movie. It's because it's
Right,
a
yeah,
3-part miniseries, so it's digestible.
Well, I am currently not on deadline, so I'm spending every spare minute I have absorbing so that I have the energy when I am on deadline again.
It'll be you soon. I'll pass it. It's like passing the baton. We're just gonna.
It was supposed to be soon, but we'll see.
Really?
It's gonna be a little while longer, I think. So.
What was that?
okay.
Let's have you guys talk about your upcoming books. I know, Laura, you're do it again, Laura.
I did.
We'll have Rosiee. Okay.
Well, it kind of fits because I'm a Cuban girl who is an Anglophile and loves all things London and British. So I wrote a story with a Cuban American character who goes and stays at a British inn to cool down after she suffers a bunch of losses in her family over a doting Cuban family. Nobody knows about those. Thinks she's not doing well and needs to give her a summer to cool down. And her mother thinks, well, we're in Miami. It's June. What's the coldest place I know is June in England. So she sends her there to family friends that have an inn. She ends up in Winchester, England, and finds a kitchen to be at home in and finds some peace and some healing and some truth about her identity. So A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow is all about how she organizes her tomorrow and rethinks it. And there's a little bit of tea and tons of Cuban pastries. And yes, I did write an entire chapter on the Cubano sandwich.
Ooh.
I love, an entire,
I want that.
There's an entire chapter based on a sandwich. I'm like, yes, I did.
I'm hungry. So.
Yeah,
Now I want a sandwich.
Comes out October 6th, and the cover is the cover of Guava pastries, and their little pastries on here. I'm going to be doing pre-order campaign soon, available for pre-order. And thank you, Jacqueline. Yes, I love it so much. And this is actually Library of Lost Things with a dummy Cuban.
I was wondering.
No, it's not out, and the arcs are delayed. COVID, but we do what we can. But it is on Edelweiss and probably coming to NetGalley. So anyway, that's my baby coming October 6th. Yay!
Yay! Rosiee, what do you have coming up next?
I've got a YA fantasy, Fire Becomes Her. It is going to be a 1920s inspired fantasy world, and it is about a girl from the wrong side of the tracks who is doing everything she can to gain power in a world during an election year, in a world where magic buys votes.
Wow.
Very cool.
That is so applicable. Can that happen now? Can magic buy votes?
No, the wrong people might get
the wrong people will do it.
That's the thing. It's got an imbalance where the rich people all have magic and the people who really need it don't have it. So it's all about class. And I will say it has nothing to do with Jane Austen, but there is an entire chapter, and we'll see if my editor makes me cut it. But so far so good. There's a chapter that's got a really good 1,000 word probably chunk that's just about tea.
Nice.
Oh, well,
Nothing happens during that chunk. They just talk about tea.
Tea, sandwiches, pastries, they can have their own.
Yeah. I will say I've got a few Austenian moments where they are having a kind of weirdly charged conversation on the dance floor. So there you go. But it's not their kind of dancing, they're doing the Charleston.
So that's fun.
Yeah.
That'll be so cool. You guys' books sound great. So thank you guys. I mean, Alexa, I guess you can talk about yours too. Yeah. But I mean, people kind of know what ours are.
No tea, no dancing, no Austen, just murder. It's
cool.
The Ivies. It'll be out next year. Cover soon.
Very good.
Murder. It's great.
Yes.
Do we want to share our next 2 live streams, our plans?
Absolutely.
Well, spoiled it. We're going to talk about Persuasion. Yay.
Yay. Nice. Persuasion with Samantha Hastings.
Yes.
And then that is actually going to be, June 20th? Back on a Saturday.
Yes. And it's the hardest accessibility-wise. And we realize that. It kind of sucks because it's my favorite Jane Austen book. Do you remember the year that the movie was, Jennieke?
I think it's
it's the 90s. It's you can rent it, so it's like a pay thing. It's not on any free streaming services. Yeah. And last we checked, neither was the ITV version. It wasn't available even for rental. If that has changed, great. I do technically have a bootleg of it, but I'm not sharing.
It's on Prime for pay.
It is. They actually put it on Prime.
I rented it. I wanted to watch it.
The ITV one, because it was not available
Yes,
when
I
we started the
believe so,
series.
the latest one.
Right, I'm gonna check.
Yeah, check again. There's one that's. I just watched it last week.
Okay,
Okay,
because it
cool.
was
And
strangely.
there's one, you guys, from 1972 that you just need to see. You just need to look at it. It's on YouTube. Just the hair.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean,
The Persuasion movie is also 1995.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, exciting. Persuasion. And then after that, we only have a week break after that. And so we're going to do Northanger Abbey with Kathy McMillan on June 27th. And there's only the one version that we're going to watch. We're not watching the 80s version. We're watching the whatever it is, the 2000 something version. So yeah, so that'll be fun. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Having us. It was so much
those
fun.
of you who have come and stopped by for comment and given us comments, like we so appreciate it. And thank you. Yes.
Thank you for giving me a platform for my pants opinions.
Grant's pants.
Hashtag
Grant's pants.
Hashtag Grant's pants.
Pants,
That's tough to say.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
Yes. Well, have a good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. And we'll see you for the next one on June 20th. Yes.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.